In the meantime, following Israel's decision to pass a law banning UNRWA from operating and engaging within their territories, Israeli and Palestinians and other nationals have reacted to the development. While some Israelis think it is a good decision, some Palestinians believe it is a move to pressurize and displace their people. The controversial law was passed amid disagreement amongst lawmakers, as well as widespread criticism and condemnation from the international community.
Best decision Israel could have taken. We should not work with terrorists, and we should not support terrorists, and we should not aid terrorists in any way.
شوي الحملة ضد الوكالة مش من اليوم ولا من امبارح، الحملة ضد الوكالة من زمان، والإسرائيل عم تعمل على انهاء الوكالة، لأنه هي بتعتبر انهاء الوكالة انهاء القضية الفلسطينية وانهاء قضية اللاجئين. يعني الموضوع مش انه كيس طحين ولا كيس رز ولا كذا، هي الوكالة بتقدم مساعدات، وهي يعني مثلا عندنا كمخيم المدارس، عندنا كمخيم النظافة، عندنا كمخيم العيادات، كلها تابعة للوكالة، وإذا هي توقفت كثير رح نتضرر احنا.
أنا بعتقد إنه عملية المضايقة على الشعب الفلسطيني ومحاولة التهجير للشعب الفلسطيني، لا شك إنه الوكالة بتحمل عنوان أكبر من الخدمات اللي بتقدمها، وهذه الضربة الرئيسية.
Joining us to discuss the current situation in the Middle East is global affairs analyst Ejike Okpa. Ejike, many thanks for joining us. Let's get started very quickly. This ban is very controversial. I mean, one has to ask, what are the immediate implications of Israel's ban on UNRWA for humanitarian aid in, Palestinian territories? And just how might this even affect the civilian population that desperately needs their services?
Thank you for having me. Look, when you're in a war situation, what do you expect? Each side is going to use whatever strategy they think is going to weaken the other side. If it means, afflicting humanitarian challenges or difficulties on the other side, because hopefully that's going to bring, the side that is so affected to come to the table and negotiate some exit or some peace. But what it tells you is that UN as an organization is ineffective. If their order or their wishes are not being followed, then what's the purpose of the organization? For one country, Israel, even standing up to say we're going to ban you, we're going to stop you, and nobody else. What are you going to do? This is just our territorial integrity. Israel is entitled to say who comes in and who doesn't come in, regardless of what the rest of the world is thinking, based on the evidence of the humanitarian, hardship that is being observed. So what I would like to see happen here is let this thing end. It's more than a year now, and nobody knows what's going to make it come to an end. People are dying, properties are being destroyed. Somebody's benefiting from this. And who is that somebody? I don't know.
Right.
When it suits America, they say condemn Israel, but they can't. I mean, they are unable to demand that they do certain things. They just condemn it and then they keep quiet, and then something else happens. So that's what it is. Life is getting lost.
All right. Speaking of condemnation, right? The major powers, like you said, the United States of America, Britain, and Germany have all condemned this ban. How do you assess all the international community's response to this decision by Israel?
Well, condemning is one thing, but actually doing something to make your condemnation stick, to make your condemnation effective, to where Israel will not feel, we're going to have to rethink what we have done. That's the most important thing. But so far, I don't think condemning it is just like when you go to the UN, you get a resolution passed for something, and then what? Things still happen and they still go on. So again, it's going to be up to Israel. You see the vote in their house, 92 versus 10, so there are still some people in Israel that want to see something different happen. But the majority rules in this case, having how many people, 90 something of them voting to ban this stuff. So that's where we are. Can we go back to before 1948 when UN was formed and finally figure out ways to bring, the member nations to where when we say we don't want certain things, that will effectively cause an action to stop it. But, resolutions and condemnation obviously haven't done anything. And that's why we have all the conflicts we have all over the world. The reason the Palestinian-Israeli thing is where it is because of the Jewish community. You know, they have the money, they have the media, they are able to get their story ahead of that of everybody. You know, there are things happening in Africa. Who cares? It doesn't make the news. But if it's anything between the Palestinians and the Jews, then everybody's attention is drawn to it.
Ejike, you're talking about deep pockets here and a power play here, right? But there's got to be some sort of consequences to this legislation. There must be potential long-term consequences of this legislation, I mean, when it comes for peace process. If not now, years after, when all of this has come to some sort of headway or resolution.
Well, of course, the consequences are that the families that have lost loved ones, or the families that are going to end up with family members that are maimed or injured, that are going to carry this wound and injury, those are the consequences. But what will stop the action? What will make nations' leadership to say, we're not going to do this, instead let's go diplomatic route? But I don't know that. I don't have that answer. I don't know what it will be. It hurts me to see, especially children and women, you know, having to suffer because of the conflict that we see. So, you know, America's caught between the hot place and the, you know, and the post. What are they going to say? You know, Israel don't do it. You know, it's like, you know, you go to lions that are about to pounce on somebody, you pat the back, hey, don't do it. The lion still takes off and pounces on somebody. And then we now wait and start to see, okay, how are we going to talk about it so that it doesn't happen, whether it happens. You know, as long as there are going to be human beings on earth, we're going to have conflict. You know, roll back the tape during the time of Jesus Christ, you know, it wasn't even a milk and honey period. So we just have to find a way to live, you know, I mean, America, one of the American states motto is, you know, live and let live. But how good is that? You know, some people live, they don't want other people to live. So right. That's where we are.
Right. And let's look at the impact of this on the operational capabilities of other international humanitarian organizations. For example, the Red Cross. And we saw yesterday the head of the Red Cross and its other subsidiaries come out to criticize how, you know, local workers have been affected by the conflict and how they need to act fast, because Red Cross cannot work without their local workers who are indigenous of those regions. How will this affect international organizations such as this in those regions? And what strategies might they need to adopt in response to protect their workers?
Well, I mean, we've seen refugee workers being kidnapped or, you know, being held, you know, hostage in order to, again, put pressure to see something other than, you know, what's going on happen. That hasn't happened. You know, the Red Cross is, you know, a non-partisan, non-partisan organization. They respond when things happen. But, you know, they are not effective. You know, they're not going to risk, you know, the life of their, you know, their staff members to do what, you know, is their good intention. And then the UN, that is, you know, every member nation is signed on to, is not getting their way. And so other organizations are just going to, you know, be on defense, you know, say, hey, what are we going to do? Because we don't want to get into it and risk the life of our own members. You know, when I watch this stuff, you know, being a child of Nigerian Civil War and seeing what happened, you know, that's how many years ago in the 21st century, with all the technologies and access to information, and seeing that happen is like, you know, you shake your head and say, when are we going to really be live and let live?
Right.
You know, I don't know the answer to that.
Honestly, and that should just be the mantra for every individual and also every human being in the world. If humanity was to take place, is always to live and let live. But I have to let you go now. Ejike, many thanks for doing this with us. Always sublime as always. Ejike Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst, speaking to me on the current situation in the Middle East. Once again, many thanks.
Thank you for having me.